The New York Giants have a new receiving option. That is former Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely signing a 3-year, $40 million contract. Hayden Likely has had many splash plays, but if we look at, just his overall games, has never had a 500-yard season or over 42 receptions in a single year. So what does he bring to the Giants, and what might be the new phase of his career?
Well, unfortunately, I think he's still going to be in that kind of tight end two kind of role, because our boy Theo Johnson, who's 260, 280 pounds out there, one of the biggest tight ends in the league, he's going to be out there to run block. And then Isaiah Likely is going to be able to be used at this offensive weapon. I use that term is because that's what Jordan Ronan, who's obviously covered the Giants forever, that's what he was hinting at before free agency started, that's what the Giants were looking for. That could be a running back, that could be a tight end, a receiver. And they ultimately settled on Isaiah Likely because of the history with Harbaugh. But also, I'll just mention this. Going back and watching Isaiah Likely, so much of his production comes in the scramble drill. What does Jackson Dart do? Scramble. Yeah. So I do think this is a good stylistic pairing between the two. Big crossing routes, utilize his build-up speed. That's where you get the best of Isaiah Likely. So I think Jackson Dart's scramble ability did play a factor into this.
So if we just look at what Isaiah Likely did this past season and where he lined up, 132 snaps in line, 266 in the slot, and then 80 out wide. Now, the Ravens use 12 personnel. They use 22 personnel. They use 13 personnel. They rotate all of their tight ends. And we know he played with Charlie Kolar, who just got a contract, and definitely Mark Andrews. And Andrews kind of owned that red zone area, but Likely was just after him on the Ravens in terms of red zone touchdowns. It does stand out to me, and you can tell me if I'm off base here, that the Giants don't re-sign the astronomical money that Wan'Dale Robinson just got. You can't get a much different body type than Isaiah Likely and Wan'Dale Robinson, yet they might occupy somewhat similar areas of the field in offenses in 2027.
Completely agree. The Wan'Dale Robinson experience last year was still a lot of the Mickey Mouse routes, which you'll see from like choice routes from tight ends, especially slot tight ends. And then you also saw Wan'Dale running up the seam, like for a couple of plays. Remember all those Russell Wilson plays? That's what Isaiah Likely is going to be able to generate. So I agree with you. It's a very similar type of player, even though they look completely different. And one just comes at a fraction of the price because they need defensive players. They need a big guard investment as well. They still need more wide receiver help. So obviously they have the 5th overall pick to help them out in different ways. But getting cheaper, I do think makes a lot of sense here.
Okay, Matt Nagy, if you've been under a rock, is now the New York Giants offensive coordinator. We know that he spent some time in Chicago. I look back during the 2019, 2020, 2021 seasons. They were under league average in terms of 12 personnel usage in all 3 of those seasons. Now, that could be personnel stuff. We also know he spent a whole bunch of time in Kansas City, and that team loves to utilize multiple tight ends. Either if it's a single one out there, he's detached from the line of scrimmage, or you have multiple, and Travis Kelce can kind of run these things.
Yep.
I think a lot of Giants fans are going to say, well, we're just going to utilize Isaiah Likely like the Chiefs utilize Travis Kelce. Is it that?
Are they saying that? I mean, Isaiah Likely cannot bend like Travis Kelce. So no, I think it's going to come in a different variety. I still think it just makes sense with Jackson Dart. And like, there were just I think the red zone stuff where Mark Andrews like completely dominated. I do think there's more up for grabs with Isaiah Likely. If you can get his damn toes in too, that would be helpful. Yeah. But I do think there's more up for grabs for Isaiah Likely, and the contract's not that crazy at all here. There was like I saw some numbers that were a lot higher than this one for Isaiah Likely in regards to like the upside. So I think it's a good contract, and you just cannot go into the season with it being Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton's their number 2 target right now. They have to get better still. I think one more addition is coming, but if Isaiah Likely turns out to be 3rd in targets this next year, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, if we look at around that $13 million per year mark, and again, we don't have the guarantees on this, it's right there with the Mark Andrews deal that he just signed with the Baltimore Ravens. David Njoku is going to be a free agent here in a little bit, but it's like right under what Kyle Pitts just signed as a franchise tag. And then you're after the big 4 contracts at the position in T.J. Hockenson, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, and George Kittle. And by the way, T.J. Hockenson just altered his contract to stay with the Minnesota Vikings. The best Isaiah Likely stuff, just thinking back on it, was almost the above the rim, pure athlete, fingertip, toe tapping, like you're saying, staying on a string with your quarterback on these broken plays. As much as Brian Daboll couldn't close out games as the head coach of the New York Giants, you and I both thought he did good things to put Jackson Dart in a position that Jackson Dart at least felt comfortable. And that's sometimes all you ask for a play caller and a rookie quarterback. I'll be very intrigued to see what happens here with Matt Nagy. If he can do the exact same thing, how structured it is. Not saying that Jackson Dart can't work in the structure of things, but like you're saying, just the movement that Dart has on the off script, out of structure plays is really some of the biggest explosives that were created. And it almost has to be based on the individual talents of the pass catchers that were out there.
And the Giants really struggled in the red zone. They could not run the ball. And obviously replacing a slot receiver with the second tight end, I think will help that a little bit. Not that Isaiah Likely's a really good run blocker. That's why he's, been at under 50% of the snaps in all 4 of his NFL seasons. But just some new ideas down there in the red area, I think will help the Giants like take that next leap up. They were like quietly about average in a lot of the fancy boy metrics with Jackson Dart last year. Just a couple just changes of the offense here and there, I think could have them flirting back in like that top 12 mix. They really do need one more wide receiver though. Like that's like the next thing, a guard and a wide receiver. And then I think we can have take the Giants more seriously.
Snaps are, a very basic stat, but again, with the Ravens going into a contract year, he played anywhere from like 46% of snaps to 53% of snaps to like 57% of snaps in almost every single game. That's a lot of money for a player who's playing about 55% of snaps. So I am interested from a pure football lens and a fantasy football lens if Isaiah Likely is going to be one of these players who comes off the field on pure running snaps, or if he can somehow get up to that 70-75% rate.
Yeah, I'm going to guess. I'll set it at 66%. I think I'll kind of split the difference. More snaps, but not all of them. Theo Johnson is a monster. My last thing here, I always found it odd that the Ravens, with both these guys eligible as free agents, they chose to extend Mark Andrews, the much older player, for multiple seasons rather than keeping Isaiah Likely. That's just, you don't see that. Usually you go to the younger player. The Ravens chose not to do that. I'm very curious to see how the next couple seasons play out for Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Maybe that was perhaps the red flag here, but Harbaugh was the one to sign him here, so maybe he thinks otherwise.
Yeah, and on the Ravens, and they have a new play caller in the very young Declan Doyle. Now 2 free agents are out of the tight end room. We'll be interested to see if they kind of reload and get younger at that position too. But again, I think Patrick Ricard is also a free agent. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so we'll see if they move on from that, Todd Monken, Greg Roman, Patrick Ricard, offensive weapon type stuff. Before we go any further, Hayden, and before we close it out here, what should the Giants do with the 5th overall pick?
Oh man. I think Sonny Styles at linebacker solved a lot of their problems. They just released one of their veteran linebackers. They couldn't stop the run.
They did sign Tremaine Edmonds while we were.
Oh yeah, well, you do need 2 linebackers, and both our linebackers were bad. So maybe it could be Jeremiah Love. I've seen that thrown out there. Carnell Tate, I still think would be a good, like the last missing ingredient for the offensive line. So we'll see. They still got a decent amount of money here to fix up some things, but obviously Tremaine Edmonds and Isaiah Likely are decent additions.
Yeah, and it did come out that they had almost pen to paper for one of their corners in Cordero Flott, but then at the 11th hour, Robert Saleh came in and just told him this amazing future plans he had for him.
He does that often.
He's signing with the Tennessee Titans. All right, that does it. As you can tell, we're recording a whole bunch of videos. So if there's a free agent signing, trade, you know where to go right here on this channel. Hit that subscribe button and we'll check you on the next one.